Hi guys, welcome to Dubs Only Sports. This is episode 16. Before we get into anything, make sure to follow us on our Instagram, Twitter, TikTok at Dubs Only Sports, and then you can catch the full episodes on our podcast on Spotify and on YouTube. You can just search up Dubs Only Sports. In this episode, we're first going to get into the Premier League stuff. Um, yeah, a lot of Premier League games going on. We're finally back from the World Cup break and some shockers. To be honest, I feel like Liverpool is one of the big ones so far. I
Yeah.
mean, they came in being like what, like five, six, seven kind of seed, and then now they've just lost a lot of games. So how are we
Oh.
feeling about that?
Let me pull up the table for a second, but it's Liverpool like came into the year as like what the favorite or the second favorite behind Manchester City, but like everyone thought that they'd be in the title race. I know they lost Sadio Mane and they had some injuries, but a lot of people had very high expectations for Liverpool, rightfully so because they won the Carabao Cup. They were in the UCL final. They almost won the league. They won two trophies last year, so they were a great team last year, and then this year they kind of stunk it up. And I just like going into the second half of the year after the World Cup, everyone thought that Liverpool would. Everyone knew they had the injuries, but everyone thought that they would make a run because some of the teams ahead of them were kind of a little bit fluky. Like if you look at Newcastle, Tottenham looked very bad, and their form has been terrible. Newcastle has had some close games, so everyone thought Liverpool can make a jump. And then recently they've been really struggling. They lost at Brentford, they lost at Brighton. They just signed Cody Gakpo from PSV because just to get another player. But even with that signing, they're still really struggling. They don't look like a good team at all. I think if I'm not mistaken, they lost 3-0 at Brighton. Yeah, they lost 3-0 at Brighton, and they lost, if I'm not like it was like they gave up like three or four goals to Brentford. It's been rough. Yeah. 3-0 to Brentford, 3-1 to Brentford, 3-0 against Brighton. It's been bad for Liverpool. Right now, they're sitting at what spot in the table? They're ninth in the table. They're
Yeah,
behind Fulham, Brighton, and Brentford in the table. They
yeah.
only have 28 points through 18 games. Last year, they ended the season with 92 points, I think. So for
Mhm.
them to only have 28 points after 18 games, it's not looking good for Liverpool. They'll be lucky if they sneak into the top four, and if they make it to the Champions League next year, they probably won't the way it looks right now. But yeah, it's been a rough start to the second half for Liverpool. Um, them alongside Chelsea have been major disappointments this year, and I don't know. I genuinely I don't think that Liverpool's going to make it to the Champions League next year or finish in the top four in the Premier League this year.
Yeah, absolutely no shot. I mean, my thing has been is that like Liverpool, unfortunately, is one of those teams where like they do like they're obviously not the greatest team in the Premier League, right? But they're still like pretty decent. Like they're still pretty
Mhm.
good. And I could definitely
You're
like,
talking about this year, right?
yeah,
Okay, okay.
like I could see them, like maybe making into like the top four spot, especially after like what they did in like the first half of the season. But after seeing like the last few performances, and you bring up the Brentford game, you bring up the Brighton game, and it's just like maybe they aren't like
They don't have
there.
that rhythm. Last year they had that rhythm, like they had a lot of their chemistry was very good. They were on a roll. They won a long streak of games. They didn't lose a lot. And this year it's just like the Luis Diaz injury really hurt them. They've had a few injuries in the midfield. Um, and they never established that chemistry. And with the loss of Mane, it just they haven't really been able to replace that. Like Salah hasn't been playing as good as he was last year. The defense has been not as good as it was last year. They've been giving up a lot of goals. Last year they did not give up a lot of goals. And
Mhm.
the main issue with them is that they can't score. And last year they would score a tons of goals. I think they were like probably first. They were probably top two. Of course they're top two in the Premier League in scoring last year. But
Yeah,
this year, like Darwin Nunez has played well overall, but he can't finish. So like
yeah.
he's creating opportunities, but he cannot finish any of his opportunities. And on like last year they had Mane who would convert every opportunity. So they're just really struggling. As I said before, Salah's not having as good a year. Luis Diaz was the main reason that they took off in the second half last year. He just was so dynamic, so quick, and then his injury really hurt them. They don't have as much pace on the outside. And then even with the signing of Gakpo, like it's of course it's only been like a few games, but I don't know if that's gonna help them enough because I don't think they're not dynamic enough this year. Like last year, they were very dynamic. They could score in many different ways. This year, they just look very still. They can't create a lot of opportunities. A lot of teams play on the counter against them. They just sit back and play on the counter, and they can't really create opportunities. They kind of remind me of Spain. They can't really create opportunities when
Mhm.
the other team sits back and hits them on the counter. Because when the other teams sit back, like Liverpool can hit other teams on the counter, and when they have like a lot of space, they can score goals. But when
Yeah.
the other teams just sit back, they had a lot of trouble. That's why they lost to Real Madrid in the Champions League final. Like Real Madrid just sat back the whole game, and Liverpool couldn't score. So
Mhm.
I just feel like, especially with the injuries that they've had this year, I feel like it's gonna be really tough for Liverpool, and especially the emergence of Manchester United, the emergence of Newcastle. I know Tottenham's struggling, but they're still ahead of them in the table.
Yeah.
Fulham's playing well, Brighton's playing well, Brentford's playing well. There's all these teams that are playing well, and there's a lot this year. There's a lot of games that are not as easy games as they were last year. Last year, a lot of easy games that gave these top teams free points. This year, there's like 10 teams that can win any given game.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, um, yeah, the Premier League is, this is definitely one of the years where it's like you have like the top teams like your Man Cities, like your Arsenals, and even like Manchester United has like started kind of making a name for
Yeah,
themselves.
they're kind of
But
emerging right now.
yeah, but then you have like all these other teams from basically like positions like 5 to about like 13 where they're all just like, and we've made this point before. They're just all in the same mix and I just don't think we won't see any separation until the end of the season when like teams
Yeah,
start realizing like, "Oh, we still have a shot at this. Let's actually try our hardest on the pitch." So,
yeah.
that's just kind of my set on it. But
I think one of the biggest surprises has to be that Manchester United beat Manchester City in the Manchester Derby. Everyone was saying Manchester United has not beaten Manchester City in a while. Manchester
mhm,
City has been dominating them. Last year, I think they beat them like a 4-1 game. This year, it was a 6-3 game in Manchester City. Um, Foden and Holland both had hat tricks in that game. City just absolutely destroyed United, and that's when United had Ronaldo and they had some chemistry issues. They were still trying to figure it out under Ten Hag. In their last
mhm,
5 games, I think they've won every single game. They're super hot right now. They signed Casemiro and that really helped them. Ericsson has been playing great this year. Bruno Fernandez has been playing great since Ronaldo left.
mhm,
Um, Rashford has had an amazing year this year and just out of nowhere
absolutely.
because last year he was just nowhere, invisible. This year he's one of the best players in the Premier League, and
Yeah.
it's just amazing to me how they looked so bad at the beginning of the year. They lost 4-0 at Brentford, and they were just getting absolutely destroyed. And they lost to
Mhm.
City, and then
Yeah.
Ronaldo leaves. And even before Ronaldo left, when they had Ronaldo on the bench, they were still try. They were kind of playing well. They weren't playing great, but they were still playing well. They were winning a few games. They would have occasionally have a hiccup, but they were getting results. And then now, after the World Cup break, they've been amazing. They've been winning all these games. They look good. The thing is, when they play, they look like they're playing well. And
Yeah.
genuinely, I think Manchester United has a clear shot at the title. I don't think I wouldn't pick them to win it, but they definitely have a chance at this title. Manchester City has been very underwhelming in the second half of the year. They tied against Everton at home. They have not looked good at all. And then Arsenal, as good as Arsenal has been, they've been so good up until this point in the year that they seem bound to have a little bit of a bad stretch, and they haven't had that bad stretch yet. United has already had a really bad stretch at the beginning of the year. Now they're coming on and they look like they're playing really well. Arsenal is up by I think 8 points in the table, but
Mhm.
there's still like 20 games left. There's still a lot of time, and I feel like Arsenal. There's definitely an opportunity for Arsenal to lose a game or lose a few games, and for United or City to get right back into it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like thank God too, because like Manchester United, I feel like Ronaldo was like such a big thing when like they signed him back to the team. And like for him to
Yeah,
just be like such a huge letdown and for him to be a disappointment and then to be let go by the team where you basically like started your career. It was just like, I can imagine how miserable it could have been for like Man U fans, but at the end of the day, it seems like they're picking it up and who knows, by the end of the season, they could be top
yeah.
tier. They could be one
Who
of the
would have
top
thought,
four.
like 2 years ago when they signed Ronaldo, that the best thing that they ever would have done was to get rid of Ronaldo and for them to now be playing the best football they've been playing for like 5 or 6 years without Ronaldo? It's crazy. Like the
Yeah.
signings that they had under Ten Hag this summer were great. I mean, the defense has been very stout this year. They benched Maguire. They The midfield has been extraordinary. I mean,
Yeah.
they reassembled the midfield in one single season, which was crazy. I mean, Fernandez last year was not playing well. This year he's
Mhm.
playing very well. He scored that controversial goal against City, but I guess it wasn't offsides because Rashford didn't touch it, but it's a little controversial.
I
And
mean, to
then
be fair, I've watched that clip over and over and over again, and I've watched it in slow motion and all this stuff. And I swear to God, okay, because what I like to look for when you're trying to determine whether or not someone touches the ball or not is you shouldn't just be looking at what does he touch the ball. You should be looking at the rotation of the ball because the rotation of the ball tells you more than anything else. And I kid you not, before Bruno Fernando even like cocks his leg back in order to kick the ball stops spinning entirely.
it's also like even if Rashford didn't touch the ball, he literally was running like as if he had the ball. Like he wasn't actually touching it, but he was as if he was dribbling the
Yeah.
ball. And it confused the defender. So like when they said in the offside rule is that if you're making an attempt on the ball, then it is offside. And Rashford
Mhm.
definitely was making an attempt on the ball. So
He
it's
was
just like
running with it like in between his legs
yeah,
at one
it
point.
wasn't technically touching him. So he wasn't like definitively it wasn't like a definitive offside, but in the rule it says like if you're I forgot what the exact wording is, but like if you're like making the defender think that you have the ball, then
Yeah.
it's offside or it's something like that. And it looked like
Mhm.
he had the ball. They ended up scoring. They ended up winning the game on a Rashford little tap in off the Anthony or I think who's the Garnacho cross. But
Yeah.
so they won 2-1. But yeah, just getting back to like United, like their midfield, they just totally transformed their midfield this year. Ericsson has been playing absolutely amazing. He's a great midfielder. Just he picks out the best passes. Bruno
Mhm.
Fernandez has had a breakout year coming back from last year because last year he was not good. This year he's having an amazing year. And then
Yeah.
Casemiro is a steady force as a defensive midfielder. He just holds the ball up really well and he's been playing great. He's a winner from Real Madrid, winning all those UCLs. So they have that winning culture. And I think the biggest thing with United is they have a culture now. They have an identity. The last
Yeah.
year, they did not have an identity. They had no culture. They were not together. There's a ton of drama. Now they have a team that's together. They have a culture and an identity under Ten Hag, and Ten Hag has been able to implement his system, and now they're winning games. And I feel like Manchester United, even if they don't win the league this year, they'll make it to the Champions League next year. They'll finish top four in the Premier League this year, and next year they'll have a really good chance of making some big signings and then
Yeah.
creating a team that actually has a shot of making some damage.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, we can only predict so much. And
Yeah,
I've said that Arsenal's gonna win. You've said that Man City's gonna win. And now we're talking about Man United. They could be
it's
possibly winning.
crazy.
So we just don't
Yeah,
know. We just don't know.
yeah.
Um,
I'm gonna stick with Man City for now, but Manchester United and Arsenal of course because they're in the lead, but Manchester United both have a say for it. But I'm gonna stick with Man City. But
yeah.
yeah, and then we have to get into Arsenal absolutely throttling Tottenham yesterday. It
I
was only 2
mean,
2-0, but they dominated that game. Tottenham looked absolutely atrocious. Tottenham's been really struggling as of late. And as a Tottenham fan, I want to hear what you have to say about that abysmal performance at home against the league leaders.
I mean, like there's like two sides of it for me because like one side of it is like I'm not really surprised. Like, yeah, we're playing awful recently. I mean, we've literally
Awful.
we've dropped like two spots within like the last week, and that's just because we're like just like not showing up to our and I mean, like credit where credit is due. We've like the schedule the past couple of weeks has been like pretty brutal. And like we're expected, I think we're playing Man City next week as well.
Yeah, you're playing City on Thursday at City.
So yeah, so it's like like obviously like coming into this, I'm not being like, oh yeah, Tottenham are gonna like win this
Yeah.
game, did it or like even draw. I don't even think we're gonna draw these games, but it's just like like I would have thought that we'd show up with like a little more
At
pizzazz.
home. You had a game at
Yeah,
home against
yeah,
Arsenal. A big opportunity. If you win that game, you're back in it kind of. You
yeah,
send a message to Arsenal. Arsenal
yep,
doesn't feel as confident. And you just let Arsenal walk all over you. I mean, Arsenal dominated that game. They have the
yeah.
early goal where Saka crosses it in and Lloris is like, and then it goes right into
Okay.
the goal. Lloris, terrible
Mm-hmm.
blunder. And then
Mm-hmm.
the second goal was just an absolute banger by Odegaard. Lloris didn't move. I don't know what he was doing, but
Yeah.
Lloris didn't make any attempts on the ball. He should have been able to save that. He didn't save it. And
Mm-hmm.
Tottenham had the whole first half, Arsenal dominated you guys. Then in the second half, the first 10, 15 minutes of the second half, Tottenham did have some chances, but
Mm-hmm.
Kulichevsky kept missing these like just like these whip arounds and like they had one opportunity on the other side of the box that they missed. And Then after the first 15 minutes of the second half, you guys just were out of the game. Like nothing happened for like the last 30 minutes of the game. You guys just looked totally out of it.
Yeah, I'm not gonna fight for Tottenham here. Like, yes, I'm a Tottenham fan, but we're like, we've been like the same team for like the past like 4 years.
This is
And
the
it's just like,
Tottenham is the definition of mid. Like when you
yeah.
look up mid in the dictionary,
I mean,
that is
like,
Tottenham Hotspur
no,
football.
because in the
That
in
is
the Premier
Tom.
League,
That
in
is
the Premier
Tom
League,
Holland.
no.
Man, that is Tom
If
Holland Tottenham
if
football, baby.
if you're trying to define mid in the Premier League, you look at the teams who are always finishing like
Okay,
in
okay.
the
Well, in the
middle.
okay. Aston Villa
At
is
least
mid.
they're yeah,
Okay,
exactly. Like
Aston
at
Villa is
least
mid, but
they're
like
like
Tottenham,
they're finishing well.
for the resources that Tottenham has to be one of the biggest teams in the Premier League, not based on history, but one of the bigger 6, 7 teams in the Premier League history, and for
Hmm.
them to never win anything, and they're a mid out of these top tier teams, they're just mid. They're just mid.
Hmm.
And that's
Hmm.
just what they are. They're not a bad team. They're not like a mid of the they're not like the 10th team in the Premier League. They're not like a mid in the whole Premier League. But when you consider the Premier League, you're usually talking about the top teams first, and then you discuss the later teams because like Brentford's not going to win the Premier League, Fulham's not going to win the Premier League. It's like you know what's going to happen.
Hmm.
So you have to consider the top like 7 to 8 teams every year that are in it every single year. Tottenham's just mid.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, I'm not really like excited about anything because we're not signing anyone. We're not really gonna get rid of anyone. Like Harry Kane will
Yeah.
probably be like like the most relevant, and it'll probably be like him retiring or him just going to like some club. Like, just he'll probably like play in America because that's what they all do anyways. It's like when they're too old to play in the Premier
He's
League.
a Tom Brady fan, so maybe he'll go like join like the New England soccer team and then just be like, "Oh my
Exactly.
God, I'll be Tom Brady now." Out of here, bro. Like,
But
oh my God, Harry Kane, he'll go flop his way in America,
okay,
teach out
calm
all the
down.
Americans how to flop, but it's
Sure.
okay. Tottenham had a terrible game. They got absolutely thrashed by Arsenal,
Hmm.
and it's not looking too great for them because Manchester United's really taking a step forward. Manchester City isn't playing well, but Manchester City is still clearly a better team than Tottenham.
Hmm.
Newcastle has been playing well, and of course Arsenal's there. So Tottenham needs to do some work to get into the top four, finish in the top four. Who knows? Maybe Liverpool or Chelsea will find a way ahead of them, but
Chelsea, don't even get me started about
not Chelsea.
Chelsea.
Not Chelsea. I take Chelsea out of this because Chelsea is just throwing
What's
money at
their
every
what's
single
their
player.
payroll just for them to be like
Dude, they're
10th?
just throwing money at every single player, and like they're having a terrible year. I don't blame them though because they've had tons of injuries this year, so I give them a pass. If you look at their injured starting 11, that team
I
can compete
understand
in
that.
Europe. But like, I think if we look at this, I think it's going to be a big disappointment for Tottenham or Liverpool if they don't make it to the top four. So I want to see if either one of those teams can make it into the top four by the end of the year. But right now,
Mhm.
they're not looking too hot.
But yeah, I mean, to step away from talking about teams, would you
Yeah,
like to go into your top five Premier League players so far?
yeah. So this year's been kind of an interesting year. I wouldn't say that this list that we're going to be doing is going to be the top 5 players in the Premier League based on like their whole career. This is how they're playing right
Just
now in the
this
best
year, yeah.
just this year, the way
You
that
want
they're
to go? You want
performing
to go
this
back
year.
and forth? You want to go your one, my
I'll
one?
just do I'll do mine and then you can do yours. But I think
Fine.
this I'm just gonna preface this by saying this is for only this year. It's not about their career accomplishments, all this
Yes, I
other stuff. This
agree.
is about how they're performing in the Premier League this season. Okay. So I'm gonna start off at number 5. I have Marcus Rashford from Manchester United at number 5. He's having a great year. Manchester United has many players that could be in the top 5 based on the way they're playing, but I'm gonna take Rashford just because he scored 8 goals. He's their top goal scorer and he's just in better form now. At number 4, I have Bukayo Saka having an amazing year for Arsenal. He's one of the best wingers in the Premier League, and I just really like the way he's playing. Number 3, you're not gonna like this, but I have Kevin De Bruyne as number 3. He's leading
I
the
don't mind
Premier League
that.
in assists.
Kevin De Bruyne, I don't mind that.
He's a stud. He's leading the Premier League in assists. He's just the best one of the best midfielders in the world. At number 2, a little bit of surprise, but Martin Odegaard from Arsenal because he's been having an amazing year. He's definitely Arsenal's best player this year. He's scoring goals, he's assisting. He's the catalyst of that team. And at number 1, I think everyone knows where I'm going with this, but it's Erling Haaland. He's
Yep.
scoring goals like crazy. He might not be the most complete
Good.
player in the Premier League, but he has the most goals in the Premier League. He finishes all his opportunities. He's by far the best striker in the Premier League and probably the best striker, pure striker in the world. So
Mhm.
I'm gonna go with Erling Haaland at number one in the Premier League.
All right. Yeah, so for me, I'll go 5-1 as well. At number five, maybe a little bit of bias, but Harry Kane, number five, he's still second in the league in goal
No,
scoring. And
he is.
like I just feel like that consistency, especially this, because like you got to think about the fact that every year Harry Kane just gets a little bit older, just gets a little
Yeah,
bit slower, and the fact that he is still out here pumping out goal. Like if it wasn't for the fact that Erling Haaland was such a beast, he would literally be
yeah,
a top goal scorer.
yeah.
So I've got Harry Kane sitting at number five, and then like you, I have Saka at four as well. I like again, like you said, he's probably like one of the best wingers in the league this year. The contributions that he makes to the teams, the amount of assists that he gets on a game to game basis, it's absolutely ridiculous. And watching him yesterday in the Tottenham game, it was just like I was just like so angry every time Saka got the ball because it's like, okay, something's gonna happen.
Yeah. Hmm.
And then at number three, it's not so much like the player, but it's more of like the team that I really like this year, and that's Ivan Toney of Brentford FC.
Okay. Okay.
He's still one of the top goal scorers in the league, and Brentford, they've made a name of like no one was really expecting Brentford to like get relegated, but nobody was expecting them to do this well. And I just feel like that really goes a long way. And I feel like Ivan Toney's like the leader of that team, and the goals that he scores and the footwork that he has is just like, something that isn't really expected from a team like Brentford. So for my number three, I've got Ivan Toney just because I've liked what Brentford are doing this year. I like the way Ivan Toney plays. I like the way he manages his team. It's just overall good vibes there. Number two, I'm not sure if this will shock you, but Marcus Rashford is my number two.
Okay.
I just feel like he's a great team player. I mean, he can give you the passes that you need in the crucial moments, and he can also, score the goals that are needed as well. So, like Marcus Rashford, obviously, you know, like not like an average player in the Premier League, but just like he's not like an exceptional player yet, like he has the potential to be like something huge and make a really big name of himself as if he hasn't made a name of himself already. It's just like, with Man United and the potential that I see for Man United for the latter half of this year, I feel like Marcus Rashford is going to be a huge part of that. I feel like he's just going to take on the role that like Cristiano Ronaldo was supposed to have, and
Hmm.
he's just gonna like carry Manchester United to maybe a top five, maybe top six, maybe even a top four. But I like Marcus Rashford as my number two pick. And then number one, I mean, it's like, as much as I hate you boasting on about him and all this crap, Erling Haaland is still like the best player in the league this year. And again, like Dylan said, this is only my like these are only my top five for this year. It has nothing to do with like Marcus Rashford or Harry Kane or Ivan Toney or Saka. And it has nothing to do with what they've done in the past. It's just about this year. And this year, Erling Haaland is a complete beast. And I feel like the thing that really hits it home, and the thing that I saw this week that made me go like, yes, Erling Haaland is the best player in the Premier League right now, is that when he was playing Manchester United double teamed and triple teamed him at certain points during the game. You don't really see that kind of thing. Even for like for Harry Kane isn't being double teamed because they know how to guard Harry Kane. Erling Haaland is just a beast. You don't really know how to guard him unless you're just putting more
Yeah.
bodies on him. That's why he wasn't
You
able to
can't guard
score.
him.
That's
Yeah,
why he
you
wasn't
can't
able to
guard him.
score.
He's impossible to guard. That's why he scores goals everywhere he is. He's impossible to guard. He's 6'5". He's athletic. He's agile. He's fast. He's big.
Yep.
He's strong. He's everything. And then he finishes his opportunities. He's like the anti-Darwin Nunez. So like it's crazy to me. And I think he's the best player in the league. But again, this is not the list of the top five best Premier League players overall because Mohamed Salah has been really good for a long time.
Yep.
Luis Diaz, if he wasn't hurt, would probably have a say in this. There's
Mm-hmm.
many different players that could be in this list. This is strictly based on this year and the performances from this year.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I mean, hey, I'm just glad that you don't really like disagree with any of my picks. I thought my
no,
picks were pretty good, to be
no,
honest.
your picks are solid. Your picks are solid. I mean, I
I
can't
thought
believe you
the
don't
Evan
have
Tony
Mark.
one, you'd
Yeah,
be like,
no, no, Ivan Tony's had a really good year. The only thing I have is like, how do you not have Martin Odegaard in your top five? But you have one Arsenal player in there.
yeah,
I just,
like I just like Odegaard. Like, okay, like I would have put Odegaard is probably like a close six, but I have
Yeah.
to like I'm just like biased towards Harry Kane. I love him so much, so I just
Yeah.
like had to slip him in there. But he's definitely like a close six, and then probably like a De Bruyne or like a close seven. That was
Uh-huh.
my thinking going into it. That's why I
Yeah.
didn't really like
Yeah.
disagree with your De Bruyne pick because again, he is
Yeah.
like as much as I hate like this whole hype around like Man City, all you need to do is guard two players and you're fine. Like that's it. So, like you can't like, you can't deny talent, you can't deny skill. Like if it's there, you can't be like, oh, like, it's one of those things. As controversial as I am, and as many of you think that I make stupid points just to make stupid points, I don't. Everything I say, I believe in. Everything I say is true. It's not just stuff that I'm making up to gain popularity, all this crap. It's literally because I believe it. Okay, like it is what it is.
End of use.
So, yeah. Anything else to add on to this little episode?
I feel like that was it. We're just recapping the Premier League. We'll keep going with the Premier League. We'll keep covering it as the season moves along. There's still a lot of games to be played, so nothing's final right now. Everyone's hyping up Arsenal because they're 8 points ahead, but there's still 20 games left, so no one knows who's gonna win. It's still a very tight race. So we're gonna keep going with that. We'll get some Champions League content coming out in the next few weeks when the Champions League starts. I think it's like a month from now, so that's pretty cool. Everyone's hyped up for that. But yeah, that's basically it for this episode. If there's anything else I want to say, but
No, I mean, everything's been said. We're just, looking forward to what happens. Make sure to follow us on our social medias. Again, TikTok, Instagram, Twitter at Dubs Only Sports. And then you can catch the full episodes on YouTube and Spotify. Yeah, that's gonna do it for this episode. And we will see you guys in the next one. Peace out.